Doranama kasarati kaisi. Welcome, my kasareta kasarenina namaka. What an honor to be here with you. Soy te pakasarenina namakasi. May you receive what you're meant to receive from this wonderful transmission that comes from so deep from my heart space for 2 years. Soy kasarenina namaka kasinaka. So let's take just a couple seconds to ground through the breath. Let's take a deep inhale through the nose. Expand the belly. And exhale through the mouth. Just one more time, deep inhale. And full exhale. I love how the energy shifts right after that, just to be more present in the body and in the present moment. Times as humans, and I've been there many times myself, just find myself so busy into what's happening later, what I have to do later, what I need to catch up with. That's why we breathe and come back to ourselves in the moment. So wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Such an honor. Like I said, such an honor and a pleasure to be here and to share this transmissions from the heart. So beautiful. So beautiful. So in this transmission, I'm sharing about preparing your body for the Kundalini rising. What a topic. And I love this topic. Of course, I love this topic. I love anything that has to do with Kundalini awakening. And the reason is because, as you might know, or maybe you don't know, so if you don't know, welcome. I'm Rukmani, Heart Alchemist. I've been going through that since 2016, really deeply. And it's a wonderful gift. In my opinion, one of the best gifts that we can give to ourselves. But in order to get there, there's a preparation process, okay? And there's this idea that you want to reach this enlightenment or whatever the spiritual goal is for you. And then we're just going towards the spiritual aspect of things, which is great. It might really work for some people, but honestly, that did not work for me. A lot of people see me nowadays, especially here in Lawrence, Kansas, where I live, with my amazing partner, Derek, and our puppy Zeus. In the community, when I go to practice at the studio where I teach yoga, and they're just look at me and saying like, wow, your practice is so good. Like, sometimes the students are like catching their breaths afterwards, right? It's a heated yoga studio. So they're like, and I'm just like, la, 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 la. And, I tell them all the time, I've been doing this for 10 years, so practicing for 10 years, heated yoga, it's something that you develop. It's almost like a muscle that you develop. And at times, yes, it's very challenging, but I've learned to be with my breath, right? But I'm going to tell you, this is not how I started my journey. I couldn't have gone straight into yoga. I tried and I was like, And at the same time, I couldn't go straight into meditation because my mind was so busy. Nowadays when people look at me, it's like, wow, you're so present and you can meditate and do all these things. Yes, I can. And I'm really good at it. But it took a lot of work prior of the Kundalini awakening to prepare my being for that awakening process. It's not like I went like I was saying, straight into meditating, straight into yoga, straight into energy work. Those things did not call me out whatsoever because my mind was so busy. What people call the monkey mind, right? It's just like the chatter over and over and over and over again that wouldn't stop. And it was... Ooh, just by saying that, honestly, I'm just getting this massive headache because it was a lot, and I have so much compassion for all of those brothers and sisters that have that. If you have that, I have so much compassion because I've been there. And even, it's not my daily life. That's not how my mind operates nowadays, because again, for 10 years, I've been doing this. Yeah. And I've committed to my work. I've committed to myself and to all those practices that make me healthy and make me happy. And also to be in my centeredness, in my being, right? And at times I do get it. It's every once a blue moon, honestly, when my mind is so activated that it's like, holy shit. I mean, like, all right, what needs to settle in? How can I hold space for you? Because that's a lot of energy that it takes to hear all of that and to be with all of that and to try to let go of that. wind, is not ready to be let go of. Okay. So I've been there myself, and it's not very easy. And it's, as I was saying, it takes so much energy just to be with that. And not even that, it takes a lot of energy at times just to be a human. I was driving with my boyfriend yesterday. We were getting some ice cream and how busy it is with all these lights and all this advertisement. And we live in a small town, you guys. Okay. We live in a small town in Kansas that it's like, wow, I can't even imagine how it is in really bigger towns or bigger cities in the States or somewhere else around the world, because I was already super overwhelmed by all of that. And so compassion for all of you. I also lived in Las Vegas, so I know how that felt like for me. Okay. But going back into, there is a preparation process, especially if your mind still gets super activated, or maybe you are just entering this journey, you don't even know how to go into a meditation state or to try to take all these classes to be in stillness, right? It might feel like super annoying, honestly, and super uncomfortable to sit in stillness if your mind is just wandering around, right? And I've been there myself. So before we get into that, this is where I call the preparation process, right? You need to move that energy. You need to move your energy out of your physical body, okay? The more that you tire out your physical body, the more that it will be so much easier for the mind to just be like, well, shut up and let you get into a meditative state. Especially, again, if your mind is super active. If the mind is super active. And I'm not telling you about, okay, do a bunch of things until you are just pooped out and you cannot do anything else. That's not the point either. And trust me, I've been there myself too. That's not the point. Okay. The point is to access that spiritual part of yourself, that it's you, that it's been always with you through the physical body. And in order to get there, you must move the energy that is stuck there, the energy that, I'm just going to give an example. The energy in the solar plexus that is telling you that you're not worthy, and all the stories repeat in the head, yeah? That you're not worthy, who do you think you are to do these things? Who do you think you are in order to get there? It's like, do you really want to get there? How are you going to get there? You can't get there, so that kind of chatter in the head is coming from the solar plexus, right? The solar plexus is like your power source. It's like really where it's written who you are. So if that is happening and you're not moving the energy of that specific chakra, then of course the mind is going to get super activated. It's going to tell you all these things. And what are you going to do? If you sit in stillness and you listen to that, I mean, of course you're going to feel shitty, trust me, again, I've been there many times. Yeah, I feel so shitty. Yeah, I believe those stories in my head, right? But I still went against them. I listened to them. I was like, whatever, okay. But I still worked out and worked it all out. Okay. I use the exercise and I use working out as a way of releasing all those things, as a way of like clearing out my mind and shutting off my mind for a second so I can be in like peace and know so much of all the shit that was happening in my head. There was a lot of shit happening in my head, trust me. And so I did that, and I started this journey with bar. Like I said, I tried to do yoga before all of that. Honestly, it was super fucking annoying. It was annoying. It was hard. I'm like at times, honestly, I had this video, right? This like city thing at home when I lived in Las Vegas, and I will play it and I will put my mat there and I will just sit in my mind. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. It didn't feel appealing to me because my body needed to move, not in the way of yoga, but in the way of like, I need to do some cardio, or I just needed to, like something so challenging, then my mind will be like, oh shit, we need to concentrate in this, because if we don't concentrate in this, I mean, how are we going to survive this? Literally, how are we going to survive this? And this is why I loved bar. And I still love bar. I actually have my bar at home, which makes me very excited. And it's actually part of my transformational 6-month program that I launched next year. So bar if you know what bar is, it's a super amazing exercise. It works tiny little muscles that we are not used to use in exercises, because it's most mix of ballet, bar, Pilates, I mean, not bar, obviously bar, ballet, Pilates, and yoga, okay? So tiny little movements that most of the time we're moving really fast, right? So the super subtle movements are like those movements that are like, my mind needed to concentrate on what I was doing. It needed to concentrate because it was so challenging. Again, if you have taken bar, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's so challenging. Even if you've been doing it for so long, so challenging. You get to a point where you're shaking your muscles, and this is how it shifts, you know, the energy in the muscles and everything. And I realized, you know, when I was still massively depressed and suicidal when I started practicing bar, and I'm so grateful for my teachers in this practice, because I realized that in that hour, there was no chit chatter in my head. There was no like, hey, you cannot live, like you have to end your life, because those were my thoughts, honestly. And it was so refreshing. It was so refreshing to get on the mat, lay down afterwards, and just breathe for a couple of breaths and be like, holy shit, there is nothing happening in my head right now. And I realized that was my access point for healing, you know? And the only reason why I could lay down in stillness afterwards, it was because I had moved so much energy and I was so tired after that practice. And so I made it very clear to myself, we're doing this every single day. And I'm not kidding you. I think I actually did it every single day without rest until my body was like, shit, we got to rest. But I mean, I reached a point where I think I didn't do it very good, you guys. I'm being super honest, because if you have been in a state where you're super depressed, yeah, to the point that you want to end your life, and you find something, when I found this one thing, this was my way of staying alive. And so if I didn't do it one day, I just like felt like, oh shit, like something bad's gonna happen. And obviously I didn't rest for so long until my body was just like beyond exhausted, and I just would pass out because I was so tired, which is not the good way of doing it. Okay, I learned from experience. It's not very kind for your body to work it out unto the point that it's exhausted and can do anything else, okay? But the point being here, this is how I prepare my physical body, how I prepare my mind, how I prepare my emotional body, how I prepare my auric field, okay? How I prepare my entire being for this Kundalini awakening. And it wasn't just bar, okay? This took years, you guys. So I started practicing bar in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 2012. Anyways, you know, around that time. Okay. So like I did that for years and I became a teacher, you know, and so it took a lot of me, you know, a lot of commitment, but I was committed because I wanted to live. And that was the only way that I knew that my mind will shut up and I wouldn't hear those messages. The only time. Okay. And so I had to move this energy. And imagine, right? It's not that it's something that just happened that year when I was super depressed. The depression just built up throughout my life. And not just the depression, but the anxiety, the self-distorted image, you know, the anorexia and bulimia, just like it kept building up and building up and building up until it hit the depression, okay? And so imagine when I was like so deep in the depression, I just wanted to kill myself, that I found this one thing that for an hour, everything would be at peace. When I had no idea that that could actually happen. I remember happened it twice before in my life when I felt completely peace and stillness and there was nothing in my mind. And I was like, I don't think this is normal. And I went back into having like the chit chatter in my head. So then I realized, wow, this is so refreshing. And at the same time, I don't feel exhausted from hearing all the shit in my head. And so I committed. Yeah, this is what it takes. It takes your commitment, and you commitment with your whole fucking being. I'm being so serious right now, especially if you are or if you were in a situation where I was before, you know, it literally was life or death for me. And so for me, it was like, hell yeah, I'm going to commit. Even if this thing is so freaking hard, I'm going to commit because I want to stay alive. I want to figure the shit out, you know? And I really want to figure out what the fuck I am, because that's literally what it was. You know, I reached a moment where in the depression, there was this moment when I tried to commit suicide, that I'm so grateful for this message, because otherwise I would have killed myself. When I heard this voice, honestly, that I was not used to hearing, like, messages at that moment, where I call Matt, which is my ex, and I call him, he come to grab me, he like held space for me and stuff. And through that whole process, I had again this thought that said, like, there's gotta be something else to life than suffering. So that was an access point to, yes, accessing my shadows, but not just doing in the energetics, but also taking care of my physical body. And this is where I like beyond committed. You know, I was like, okay, I'm committed. I know that I want to stay alive, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to stay alive. So how do I do that? Okay, so bar shuts off my mind for an hour. I can deal with that. I can be 1 hour in peace after like working out like crazy, and so fucking hard, honestly, so fucking hard, especially when I didn't have any muscles. I mean, I had muscles, but I was super skinny, you know, I was super skinny. And so I was like, yes, I will take this hour every single day and I will do it, you know. And like little by little, I was able to, you know, embrace my body and be like, wow, my body's changing. Wow, look how my body's looking, you know. And then little by little, other people will like notice too, right? That doesn't mean that inside of me, I was like super in love with myself. Inside of me, I was still like, oh, this fucking sucks. It sucks to be me. Honestly, that's how it felt like. But I didn't give up. I stayed with that practice. Yeah. And then after that, I went into something deeper, because then I realized I had to move more energy. Okay. Your being knows. Your being is so intelligent that it knows and it sends you signals. So then I started to do cardio. I started to do Pilates, hot Pilates too, which is another like, what the fuck? And then I became a hot Pilates teacher, you know, so I was teaching hot bar, I was teaching regular bar, and I was teaching Pilates. And it was so great. And I was also teaching TRX. So, you know, like I used the physical body, I used that to move the energy whenever I felt like super depressed. And when I feel these really deep emotions, unlike a lot of people that I know, I cannot eat. Like there's no way I can put something in my body. It just feels so wrong. And the times that I've done it, it's just like, ugh. So, you know, so then when those things happen, I will just still even show up and practice. And I will tell the teacher, I haven't eaten anything, but I need to be here. I need to move energy. And they're like, take it easy. And so it was so gratifying, because afterwards it was like, oh, thank you, God, thank you, heavens, thank you, goddesses, because this is what I needed. Okay, so this took years, you guys. This took years, probably like 3 years of these things. And then I went to like the yoga teacher training. I actually did the yoga teacher training before Pilates, but I was already doing the cardio, I was already doing TRX, I was already doing bar, right? So I prepared my body, my mind, my emotional body to be able to do the practice of yoga, because I couldn't before. And because I already had some strength in me, and I already knew how amazing it felt for me to move my body, then it was a little bit easier to go into that practice, you know, because again, I realized whenever I was so present with my body in anything that I will do physical, there will not be all that stupid shit in my head. So again, I was like, okay, you know, I'm going to do this. And then it was with yoga that I realized there was something much bigger. There was something much bigger, because in my first yoga teacher training, I have like 4, honestly, 2 Kundalini and 2 other like vinyasa style trainings. In the first one, I just released so much. And it wasn't just about my physical body. It was like emotional, you know, it was raw. And it was through that teacher training that I was able to look at myself in the eyes in the mirror, because before I couldn't. it was just like, okay, I'm just gonna avoid you because I don't even like what I'm seeing. Okay, I don't want to look at it. So if I had to practice and there would be mirrors in that room where I used to practice in Las Vegas, I would look at my chest or my throat. Couldn't look at the eyes. I was like, fuck it, I can't. And so I know I couldn't have gone straight into yoga asana. So again, I had to take these tiny little steps to get there, because yes, you're moving in asana practice, but you're also in stillness in some poses, which it wouldn't driven me insane, honestly, had I not practiced the other things before that. It was there, then I started to meditate. It was there when I was, in a way, a little more easy about sitting in stillness, but it's still not. But I still tried and gave it my all. And it was super uncomfortable. Let me tell you, it was super uncomfortable. But then I did. And through that, I realized, wow, there's a lot of things going on. And again, I was still practicing bar. I was still practicing Pilates and teaching those things. And then I started to teach yoga, and I started to practice yoga even more, like hot yoga. And many things opened up, but this took a series of years, you guys. Okay. So again, from like 2013 or 2012 until I took my first yoga teacher training in 2014. And the Kundalini awakening happened in 2016. Okay. So 3 years, right? 3 or 4 years of preparing my body physically. So then my energetics could also come in some kind of balance to prepare my inner world for the rise of the Kundalini. 4 years, okay? So I couldn't have gone, one more time, I'm saying this because it's so important that you hear it. I couldn't have gone straight into practicing Kundalini yoga or into practicing just yoga asana or meditation, because my inner world was so fucked up that my head would just tell me that I had to end my life constantly. And it's not easy when you have those thoughts and somebody's like, oh, just be in stillness and breathe. Like, are you serious? No. I cannot just breathe here because I will have a panic attack. I will have an anxiety attack because my head is just going like this. And I'm just using all the energy that I can to survive those fucking thoughts, So then, of course, I understand now so clearly that I had to move my body like that and to find discipline. Okay, this is so crucial in this experience of awakening. You must have discipline. You discipline to show up, first of all. Discipline to be like, yes, this commitment. That's also the discipline, the commitment and the doing the work, even when you don't want to do the work. There were so many days, you guys, that I didn't want to show up to bar. There were so many days that I didn't want to show up to Pilates or to yoga, but I had committed to myself and I knew, okay, you feel really shitty right now. And then your mind is super activated. But remember what happens when you go to these classes and afterwards your mind is like, la, at least for a bit. And so I knew, and I forced myself many times. I forced myself, and I will even show up super tired and without any sleep. I just showed up, So your commitment is literally the opening for this experience and also for the discipline. If you cannot have discipline if you don't have the commitment, if you don't understand why you're doing what you're doing. Again, I'm telling you that for me it was life or death. I really hope that for you it's not this way, but for me it was. So I chose life, and I knew that I was choosing life by showing up to these classes every single day. And the moment that I wouldn't show up is because I was already like going like again. And so I stayed with that, and I didn't care, honestly. I didn't care how I felt. I didn't care at all if I had eaten or I was tired or whatever. It's like, I'm showing up because I know I need this. I need that hour of peace in my head. And it was great to be around people anyway. People that were laughing, because at those moments, it's just like laughing was really fucking hard. And I know I'm cussing a lot in this podcast. That's probably a part of me is like, you gotta understand this. But it's so true, you guys. Okay. It's so true. Maybe some of you, if you're already deep in this journey, for you it was so much easy to access that because it didn't depend on your life to move your body. For me, again, it depended, my life depended on it. And I was like, yes. So your commitment is the very first part of your discipline. And then this discipline is also whatever it is that you're doing, whatever practice that you're doing. So my discipline at the beginning, like I said, it was bar, fully freaking committed to bar and TRX. And then you went into yoga, Pilates, bar, TRX, which I know it's a lot, but that was also my work, being a fitness teacher and a yoga teacher. And then I was open enough because through all this opening of practicing yoga and meditation and bar and Pilates, it opened enough my body to receive Reiki. And that was a game changer. And this was a year before the Kundalini awakening, so 2015. Because I felt that it was so natural to me. It's like, I've done this before. Like I knew, I had that knowing. I've done this before. And it was just magical. I was just like, wow, life can really be like this. And then I just became even more curious. And then I opened up even more to actually be able to sit in a Kundalini yoga teacher training, which it took messages for that to happen, trust me. Because the first time that I went into the studio in Las Vegas, I had an out-of-body experience and it freaked me out. It was like, no way, what is this? Nuh-uh. But then I received a message that it was in my best interest to do Kundalini yoga. So I did. And then the Kundalini energy rose. So this is what I mean about preparing your body. Yeah. Maybe if you have already been moving your body since a very young age or just for years, just exercising because you like it or because it's good for you, then your body is already a little prepared. Yeah. But also, it's not just about preparing the body, but you're also preparing your mind, you're preparing your energetics, and you're preparing your auric field because it's a massive change. Yeah. So the energy needs to move from inside too. Yes, you're moving the physical body and the energy does shift. Okay. But then the energy shifts differently when you meditate. The energy shifts different when you're doing energy work and receiving energy work. Okay. So this is what I did. I moved my body physically for about 3 or 4 years prior of being open to receive the practice of yoga asana, prior of being open to receive Reiki. And even at the beginning, like one of my dear sisters, Ali, I love you so much. She was like, do you know about Reiki? I was like, I don't want to know anything about anything. I was like, I'm with yoga. And eventually when I was freaking out one day, she did Reiki on me. I was like, what in the world is this? She's like, girl, I've been telling you. So, like it takes time. It's not that, okay, you want to wake up your Kundalini energy, right? And your inner world is so dark and all these things, and you just want it to happen like this. It takes time. Sorry to disturb your bubble. And I'm not sorry at the same time, but it takes time. It's a process, and at the same time, having the Kundalini energy moving up, that doesn't mean that you're already enlightened and you have everything figured out, because then you enter another deep part of your journey. Super fucking deep, let me tell you, but it's amazing. That will be for another podcast. But here we are, preparing your physical body, okay? Moving the energy out, especially when you're going through the stress, especially when you're going through major shifts, in your being, in your life, the energy must be moved. And it's so much easier to move it through exercise, through running, through walking, even if you are just doing jumping jacks for a minute. Honestly, I'm not joking. Something like this, but to the point that your body like feels that somewhat exhaustion and it's just more open to receive stillness. And this is in stillness is how you begin to open up those energetic channels. It's how you let them flow, let them open. Because then you're sending a signal. It's like, hey, I know I want the Kundalini energy to rise. I know I'm worthy of that because it's a massive experience and a massive getting to know yourself in such a deep level. And I'm accessing it through my physical body because that's the easiest way to do it. So then, because you're moving the physical body and you have that knowledge in you, then the signals within yourself, within your inner worlds, the energetics are like, oh, okay, we want to awaken the Kundalini energy. So what else can we do? Okay, when this person is in stillness, let's move all this energy around, right? Because, okay, you're showing up to work out, right? Especially if you just started. And at the beginning, I'm sure it's challenging, it's been challenging for me. I can totally resonate with that. But because you continue to show up, you're showing your being that you care. You're showing your being that you love it and that you're super freaking committed to this experience, to your health, right? Because you are showing up for your health, you're taking care of your body, and maybe you're eating even better. Then obviously your body feels it. It's like, oh my gosh, okay, so we're ready, we're preparing. Okay, what are we preparing for? To get to know ourselves deeper, right? How can we experience that? Through the Kundalini awakening. And I'm just going to give a side note, okay? The Kundalini awakening can actually happen and you might not be able to feel it. That doesn't mean that it's not happening. Other people might actually feel it really intensely, or other people might just see the energy and move the energy, okay? So we're all different. So I'm saying this so then you can have a broader experience and a broader open mind, if you will, about that experience. Because I think I've said this before, but my boyfriend didn't feel his Kundalini energy rising. He saw the energy and he actually played with the energy, okay? I felt it and I saw it, but I'm different. And I'm different because I'm just going to get into a little bit of astrology. I have Saturn in my 12th house, okay? Which means that I came with many experiences of past lives that I talk to spirits and spirits talk to me, okay? So in my chart, that's what it says, and it's so true in my journey. So, which is different than his, okay? And maybe than yours. So this is what I'm saying. Some people are just born with that. They just come with that because it's part of their journey, right? Some others, no, it might be different. So let's be open to your own experience, and you will know when you're going through an awakening, because it's honestly, it's like, it feels like you're being slapped around. At least for me, it's like you're being slapped around, and it brings so much confusion. But at the same time, when you know your heart, when you know your hearts and you can feel, I know this is good for me, but it's just like, it's so scary and it's so raw and it's so vulnerable. But if you surrender to the heart, then the heart will just lead you, right? It's about dropping all the shit from the head into the heart space and trusting the heart that is holding you. So then you will know, okay, this is good for me. Okay. And of course, I so recommend to have somebody that can guide you. Okay. And I'm saying this honestly because I didn't have anybody, and it was so freaking scary. When it happened, it was so freaking scary. I used to talk to my ex about it. He had no idea what the fuck I was talking about. And I would just cry. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on. But deep inside, I was like, this feels right. This feels right, but it's so scary. Okay, so I'm just now closing off the parentheses in the bubble. So then, okay, you might feel the energy shooting up. You might not. You might see the energy. You might not. You might go through deep awakening experiences and you feel so confused. And maybe that's how your experience is supposed to be, okay? But regardless of that, there is a preparation process. And even for those that it just happened instantaneously, right? Something happened within the being for that energy to have the space to move upwards. Because if all the energy channels were all clogged up around the energy that is resides at the bottom of the spine, right, in the coccyx level, your little tail, if all the energy was clogged up there, how would it push upwards? How would it move upwards? When the energy begins to move around and to just flow, then it's like, hey, I have this opening. Okay. So preparing the body for the Kundalini awakening, so much easier and faster, unless you can go straight into sitting with Kundalini yoga. so much faster to move and start from the physical body. So at times as humans, we want this shortcut, right? And then maybe you have this experience that you see all these people channeling and all this wild experience. It's like, I just want to get there, right? How do I get there? So I'm going to start with all these spiritual things, right? When it just maybe doesn't even resonate for you. Maybe it does, and that's cool, right? But then it's too challenging to comprehend with the mind, because then you're forcing in a way the body to understand that, when the body is in a state of like, listen dude, I have so much shit going on here, and let me move these things first and clear a little bit, clear some space, so then I can absorb what in the world this is. Yeah. And so then you move the physical body, you prepare it, right? And then it can actually be receptive, be like, oh, okay, I already made some space. Yeah, I get this a little bit. Yeah. And obviously I said that for me it took like 3-4 years, right, to prepare my body. That doesn't mean that that's going to be the same for you. Okay. Maybe for you it's a month. But what I was going for that is like sharing my story, so okay, I didn't go just straight into being a healer or a space holder or a channeler. I had to prepare my body very deeply, and my mind and my emotional body and my auric field, in order to receive my gifts, in order to be open for that, right? So again, if a lot of channels, and trust me, when you are in that deep space of depression and suicidal tendencies, a lot of your channels are closed. A lot of your major chakras are super freaking blocked. And so imagine, I had to deblock all that shit and I had to move all this energy around consciously, even when I didn't want to, in order for those channels to open up and receive and to feel again, right? To tap into what my own wisdom already is, and to allow my gifts to surface and accept them. Because otherwise, how am I going to create space for them if everything is clogged up? It's very similar to so for example, if you have it's called food dispenser, like this thing in the States, because I haven't seen this in Peru, but you do the dishes, right, and you just let food just come into there, and there's this little level where you lift tab and it sucks all this stuff in and just makes the food disappear. This is the only way I can explain it. I apologize for that, because for some reason English is not working very well for that example. But I'm sure you get, especially if you live in the States, or maybe this is also in all our first world countries. So if you have a lot of food that you're just throwing in the sink, right? And then you're washing dishes, and then eventually like it gets like the water gets there, and there's so much in the sink inside that is not allowing it to like go down, right? And you have to use this button to suck everything out, right? I mean, it's not like we have that kind of button, to be like, oh, my shit is clogged, let me lift up this button and see what happens. Our button is to move. Our button is just to do the work. One of my teachers says that, she's heard this from her teacher, actually. My yoga teacher here in Kansas, Leanna Henning. She says, her teacher says, doing the work is a shortcut. Yeah, so this is what's happening. It's all clogged up, especially if you're having deep experiences, or you have had deep experiences. So you got to move some things out. And again, the quickest and fastest way that I have experienced in my life is to exercise. To move the energy, especially if there's so much rage. I had a lot of rage, trust me. So much rage, like maybe that's not even believable, because a lot of people look at me like, you're so calm, and yeah, yes, sure, I am, but I used to be a volcano. Trust me, I used to be a volcano, and I had to work very hard at that. I had to find a different outlet to let all that energy out. Okay, it's a practice. It's a practice, it's a preparation. It's not like we're all perfect, right? We're all perfect in a way. But again, in order for you to reach these goals, if that's one of your goals about spiritual awakening, or deeper, even deeper, right? To have a discipline, it starts with that commitment. And you stick with that no matter what. Even if you normally do an hour and then the next day you're like, okay, I can only do 5 minutes. That's okay. But you showed up. And that's what matters, because that's how you show in your body, your being, that you're so committed to you, to your awakening experience. And again, because of that commitment and the discipline that you're adding to the commitment, then your insights know. It's like, okay, we're preparing and we're doing this, and you're doing it, and celebrate yourself. Okay. This is also like a little tip that I'm giving you. Celebrate yourself, because this life is worth of celebrating. The fact that you are here after maybe a bunch of shit that you've gone through, and you're still here present, gosh, that's worth of celebrating. You're so worthy of a big celebration. Throw yourself a party. If parties are not good for you, or you don't resonate with that, do something else, right? But yeah, celebrate yourself. It's a journey. It's a journey, you guys. And it's the most magical journey that I've been in, honestly. And like my own experience, because then holding space for others is just another, there's no words to explain what I feel for holding space for others. But going back one step back, okay, I wouldn't know how to hold space for people had I not hold space for myself. Yeah. This is something that my boyfriend and I were talking about yesterday, how there's so many coaches out there. And, you know, this is not bashing on any of you whatsoever, okay? But there's some people that go out there to hold space for others when they don't even know how to hold space for themselves. And maybe they could definitely create, you know, a more imbalanced state in somebody else, right? And so this is why it's pretty good to do your research before before trusting somebody, unless you feel a call of the heart, right? I felt a call of the heart for my teachers, and I knew from the very get-go when I met them, it's like, that's my teacher. Yeah. But again, I went through everything that I went through, and I held space for myself deeply in order to know how that feels like, so I can do that for others. And that for me is one of my greatest gifts. But it has nothing to do with others, but the gift to myself. Because again, when I commit 1,000,000,000%, even more. So I committed to myself that day when I was like massively suicidal, and I said, I'm worth of living, and I'm committing to whatever it is. And that commitment never stopped. Never stopped. Even when things got super challenging, I was still committed to myself. And not just about the exercise, you know, but anything else that I added to my routine, I was super committed, and I'm still committed. I still do my practices. I still do yoga. I still meditate. I still do gratitude practice. I still connect with the earth. I still do bar, you know, and I do many other things, you know, because I'm worthy. And I know that I'm worthy of this experience. And I know this experience is beyond beautiful. And if you're in that space when it just feels like, oh, fuck, this sucks. I feel you, brother. I feel you, sister. It fucking sucks to be in that space. But let me tell you that there is another side to that. Once you surrender to all of it, once you begin to move your body. If you feel that way, move the shit out, honestly. Punch some things. I'm not joking when I say, like, I punched pillows also to release that anger, because I had no idea how to release it. I still scream. When I feel like I need to scream out of like frustration or anger, I scream it out. I don't stop it. Even if I have to put a pillow on my face to scream, I do it. I mean, what a beautiful way of releasing, you know, and I'm not ashamed of saying that. I'm a freaking human. Yes, I'm balanced in my own way, but I still go through my things and I celebrate that. That makes me human. And I want you to know, I want you to see me as a human. I'm not just this woo channeler that does all these things, you know? Yes, I'm that as well, but I'm that because I've been a human and I've been a self-sabotager for so long. And I did all these things to sabotage my happiness. I did all these things to try to end my existence. I did all these things to like fuck myself up. And I had to undo them all. And I did that because I committed. One more time, going back to that year in 2011, I committed. I was like, I'm doing this. I'm staying alive, whatever it takes. And whatever it takes, it took me to make space for my gifts. Whatever it takes, it took me to be able to tap into my sight and see my energetics. I committed. I committed to myself. I committed to be alive. And I still do. And I still do because this life is so freaking beautiful. It's so freaking beautiful. Once you see the beauty and perfection of it all, once you see your own beauty and perfection and your own power, once you just tap in, even if it's for like a millisecond, it's like, whoa, what? That's me? How do I get to feel that more every single day? And it's almost like this thing, like in a way, it sounds kind of funky, but it's like this kind of addiction of like, oh, but it's addiction to something so good rather than popping pills like I used to do, you know? It's like, wow, that's my own high. I can be high in my own energies and my own love. What the fuck? How can nobody tell me that? And then, you know, and then you find yourself, and I found myself just being super high on my own energies almost every single day. I'm not even joking, you guys. Every single day, I feel this high of my own being without anything, without anything. From the very moment that I wake up, I'm like, I wake up, I give thanks to our beautiful home. I call it casita. To our beautiful casita. I give thanks to all my ancestors. I call upon my guides, my energies, you know, like I give thanks for the breath. And I step outside and I go to the earth and I hear the earth. I close my eyes and I hear the sounds on the earth and I tap into her. Be like, wow, that's a gift that I'm giving myself, you know? And from that particular moment, when I open up my eyes, even when I feel still tired in the moment, I'm so high on love. I'm so high on my own love because I went through all that shit that I did and I committed out of love for myself to be alive. No matter what, I committed, and the commitment again is because of love. The commitment that you're doing is because of love. It's not for anything else. It's not for this dude or that girl or whatever. It's because you love yourself, and deep inside, you know. Deep inside, you know. So remember that this commitment where you're doing is out of love, even if you feel that you don't love yourself. You know, this commitment that I did when I was massively suicidal, that was out of love. I had no idea it was out of love because I felt like I didn't even love myself. Obviously, you know, I was trying to kill myself. But, and I know it sounds like so, like I'm just saying these things like no big deal. I'm saying these things like no big deal because I've shared my story many times. And I'm okay with my story, you know? I'm okay with my story. Had I not been suicidal, super depressed, and all these things that happened to me, that I did to myself, I wouldn't be where I am. Do you get that? You know, like all the shit that you've gone through, you wouldn't be where you are without it. You wouldn't have the strength that you have without it. I wouldn't have the love that I have for myself had I not totally hated myself to end my existence. That is what walked me where I am. And again, my commitment, my full-on commitment to me out of love for myself, out of love for life, out of love for you, out of love to this planet and the whole collective, when I didn't even know that shit existed. Yeah. But deep inside, we know. Deep inside, we know. Deep inside, you know that you're doing this because you love yourself. So remember that. Put your sticky note around. Like, you're doing this. You're showing up because you love yourself. or because you want to feel that love for yourself. You want to feel what this life could be like, experiencing something beyond the pain, but a super fucking bliss that you wake up every day so high on your own energies and your own love. And you just get even more high when you hear nature, and when you see somebody else smiling, and when you see your puppy just so happy or just sleeping. Speaking of puppy, there he is. Seriously, seriously, my heart melts when I see a child laughing. My heart melts when I see the squirrels running around. My heart melts when Zeus, our puppy, is sleeping. My heart melts when I hear the sound of the birds, when I hear the sound of the leaves, when the wind is really strong. My heart melts when I just breathe, because I love myself, because I committed. I committed that one day. I did that commitment out of love. And I prepared my body as much as I could to move all those energies around to make space so the Kundalini energy could rise. And I'm not a special breed. I might have Saturn in my 12th house, but I'm not a special breed. Actually, we all are a special breed. So just remember that you are the special breed. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.